Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Between Sessions with Berries. We have a very cool guest today. It specializes in a topic I know all of us can relate to on some levels. Our guest today is Nichole Coyne, LCSW. She's a clinical therapist and coach who works with high achievers and perfectionists who look successful on the outside but feel exhausted, anxious, or disconnected on the inside. Nichole helps people untangle overworking, people-pleasing, and relentless self-criticism by getting to the deeper patterns underneath. Her work is honest, compassionate, and deeply practical, and she's especially passionate about helping therapists and other helpers build lives and businesses that are sustainable and not just impressive. Nichole, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
So glad to have you here. So let's just dive into this. How did you find yourself specializing in perfectionism and high achievers? What drew you to this work?
My background is in the medical field. So I was a medical social worker for years, and I worked for hospice and pediatric and med surg and all the fun things and psych. And I had been in private practice in and out of my career. And I knew that I wanted to do something different and that I wanted to provide a different type of care. And so I had a mentor ask me one day, she said, if you could talk about anything on repeat every single day of your life, what would you be able to talk about? I was like, perfectionism. Working with physicians, working with nurses, working around different types of groups of people that are working on people staying alive, but also just living in that cycle of understanding what perfectionism and high achievers are and how that exists, and being a recovering perfectionist myself. It was something I could talk about nonstop. So that is where my niche really led to, and led me to even now provide coaching for people that are beyond that therapy space.
So why do you think it's helpers? It's always the helpers that are the perfectionists, the high achievers. In my anecdotal viewpoint, why do you think that is? Do you have like some theory around it?
I think that we could always go back to the understanding of how we were raised and what type of environments that we grew up in. But I also think that there is a level of correcting and solving and fixing and having things right when we're put in very high categories of supporting people, and especially as therapists. I don't think that there's a therapist that I've ever met that comes out of the session and goes question themselves in some way of like, I really hope that that helped that person, right? And so I definitely think perfectionism tends to be more towards helping people that enjoy helping or serving others. And I do think it's oftentimes a personality or it's about your upbringing. It's about situations that you've been in and that have kind of pushed you towards that angling of like, I want to do this, but I want to do it right.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm the oldest daughter, so I think I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Like we could go down that.
Me too. So I get it.
Okay, you get it. I feel like we're a type. We're definitely a type. So where's the line between I'm driven and ambitious versus this is something deeper than that? How do you start to differentiate? Because I think a lot of people are like, well, yeah, I'm just ambitious. But when does it become maladaptive?
Yeah. So there is a really significant difference between healthy ambition and maladaptive perfectionism. And I like saying maladaptive perfectionism because I think a lot of people use perfectionism as like a coat of armor that they're hiding behind of like, this is how people know me. They know I'm going to show up in this way. They know I'm going to take care of those things. And no matter what, I'll figure it out. And it's okay, right? It's okay to have that. But the biggest difference is healthy ambition is really about growth, whereas maladaptive perfectionism is about self-protection. For healthy ambition, you make a mistake and it's like, okay, we made a mistake. We learned something from that. Let's move on. Maladaptive perfectionism, you're spiraling. You can't get over this mistake. It's just reeling in your mind. You're ruminating. You're really hyper-focused on it. It's catastrophically blowing up in your face. You're holding it. And people that have maladaptive perfectionism also have extremely high inner critics. So they're very critical of themselves and can be of others, of the expectations. So another thing is rest.
Yes, I was just going to ask you that.
Yep. So for somebody that's got healthy ambition, they don't feel guilty and lazy when they're resting. They're like, okay, now this is what I'm supposed to be doing. For somebody that's experiencing maladaptive perfectionism, they struggle with sitting down. They are unable to stop working or stop doing or stop serving.
Gotcha. Yeah. So if somebody's listening, how do they self-diagnose this? I mean, is there like 5 questions or something, Because I feel like it could be such a gray area with a lot of this stuff. I hear what you're saying. There's definitely some symptoms. Or maybe a better question is like, when are we right on the line? When should you start to catch this so you can not spiral into this doom of despair and perfectionism that like ruins every day of your life kind of thing?
It's a great question. And honestly, I'm going to go with what do you feel, right? Because if you feel like what you're doing is working and is sustainable, then okay, that might be. If you feel like what you're doing is burning you out constantly, making you feel negatively about yourself, you have too much anxiety, you have insomnia, you're never stopping, we have a different topic to talk about. In terms of diagnosing, perfectionism isn't yet a diagnosis. So this is more about how are you viewing perfectionism in your life or being a high achiever in a way that you want to? Do you get to live in your life the way that you're working in your life? What is the difference?
That's so good. Yes, exactly. So you said something that it's basically like the difference is it's a coping mechanism for a lot of people. And we know this as therapists, right? It's like childhood trauma. It's a way to cope, survive, that sort of thing. What is it? What's the origin story? It's probably different for everybody, but are there certain themes or characteristics you see that probably can lead to this safety coping? I guess it's the safe way to cope, but of course it's backfiring on a lot of people that really get in trouble with it, I think.
What research will say is that it is often based upon the way that your primary caregiver took care of you and then your personality. So when we're looking at it that way, when we're looking at it as almost like an attachment piece, but we're also looking at it in the sense of what kind of home did you grow up in? Did you grow up in a home where you were the oldest and you had younger siblings and you had to take care of them and help mom constantly or help?
Yes.
Yeah. And so there's a part of your personality that just tends to be in that high striving mode. And it's okay. It's great to be a high striver. It's when it starts to create this disconnection of now you tending to yourself versus tending to other people. Because perfectionism also has huge overlap with people-pleasing tendencies, right? And the fawning response. So we're always making sure everybody in the room is good before we're even checking in on ourselves to make sure we're good. You get everybody and everything ready first, and then you put on your life vest, you know? So when we're looking at the origin story of it, we want to know what was it like for you in these situations? And then also, how many times have you been able to realistically rely on people and delegate things and really pay attention to what's showing up in those capacities? Because that will also create distrust with the system if we've been disappointed a lot to where we feel like it's all on us to keep that needle moving.
Yeah, and I feel like those recovered people pleaser here, there was always just this level of resentment that was breeded from that. Angry, resentment. You know, I do so much for everybody. Nobody does anything for me. Like that whole thing, that whole pattern that ruins relationships. It makes you feel miserable, that kind of thing. So I guess you see that too, like a lot of resentment in the personalities that you're working with. Do you see that a lot?
Oh, for sure. But also too, so there's 3 types of perfectionism, right? There's self.
Oh, let's talk about that. Yeah.
It's oriented inwards. The self of like, I have to be perfect or show up a certain way in order to not be judged. Other is about the expectations we put on other people, which is what you're talking about with the resentment and the people pleasing. Like, why can't they just load the dishwasher? Or why can't they fill out this form? Or why can't they do that? Right? Or why can't this guy stop at a red light? Like, that's the other oriented perfectionism. And then they're socially constructed, which is how we assume the world sees us. So like the American dream of we're supposed to have a house with 2.5 kids and a white picket fence. And like, these are the expectation that society has put on us. And this is what I'm supposed to, which leans into what's called moral perfectionism, like leaning out of the what's right and wrong. And a lot of people struggle really heavily with that. And I do see oftentimes the people that come to me are people that have given a lot of themselves to other people and are now sitting in this space of like, I don't know what's left. And I don't know what next steps or what next moves that I feel good in without giving more of myself. And so finding that balance is the key for it, because that's what ultimately strives towards healthy ambition of who are you? What do you want? What does that look like?
Yes. So how do we help somebody just start to dig out of that? What are some strategies?
Yeah. First things first is book a free call with me. But second things first.
In the show notes, y'all.
But the other thing is understand the fear and start to listen to how you communicate with yourself. One of the things that I work on with my clients always in the beginning is I want to hear your inner critic. I want to hear how you talk to yourself internally. because perfectionists have an extremely high inner critic. They are very critical. They would never speak to anybody in the world the way that they speak to themselves, yet they continuously do it. And you live in that. Now you live in that very, hey, you're not doing this right. You're never going to get this done. This is so hard. I don't know why you said you thought you could do this. And that reeling can change the way people will show up. So really paying attention to your inner critic and what the fear is telling you. What are you afraid of? Because a lot of the time, perfectionists are afraid of vulnerability. And in some capacities, that's based on trauma, being disappointment, or having resentment from past experiences.
Yes, absolutely. So where does imposter syndrome come into all this?
Imposter
Let's talk about that. I feel like that's the enemy of the therapist. You kind of touched on it in the beginning, but let's talk about that a little bit for people that are listening.
It's kind of like a rite of passage for therapists too, because we have such a private job that there's no way, or there's not a lot of ways, I will say, that you can't experience some of this just because no one else was sitting in the room with you but you and your patient. Even in the green years where we're getting our hours, we're doing all this stuff, we're like walking out of there like, oh, okay. Imposter syndrome plays such a big role with perfectionists because they're always assuming that they expect less than what they actually deserve. And so when we're experiencing the imposter syndrome, we're always questioning what we're doing, but we're never celebrating our actual achievements.
Yes.
So we just go on to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, to the part where a lot of the times, a lot of people that come and work with me, especially high execs, they're like, I bossed so hard, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, I understand. That's the burnout piece that leads into the imposter syndrome of the fear that you haven't deserved this or you haven't earned this. And I think that we tend to view imposter syndrome a lot of the times in the wrong parts of our career. We experience it a lot in the beginning of our career. And then as we start to try anything new, that imposter will kind of creep its way up and be like, are you sure you can do this? But that's the time when we usually have way more experience, way more knowledge, and healthy ambition. When we make mistakes, we kind of just go, oh, okay, I don't need to have a crash out about this. This isn't wrecking my sense of self. It was a mistake. Let's just overcome it and go to the next part.
And then I would imagine just paying attention to that stuff. Every time you thought it was a huge deal, doing a little reflection maybe around, yeah, it actually wasn't a huge deal. Now that I look back, none of it even mattered. All that stuff that you worry about or you think is going to be terrible or, yeah.
Kim, one of my favorite questions to propose to clients and people all the time is, will this matter in a year?
Yes.
Will you be thinking about, will this matter? Like in a year's time, how important is this? Because it really changes the scale for how much volume we use on the problem. How much are you turning this up right now versus is this a real issue? And when we can pull away from that, it changes the way that we hear the imposter because we're not being questioned on our own personal values as much. But it also changes our perspective of that moment.
Absolutely. It's making me think there's this book. It's called Get Out of the 2 Times Your Life by 10 Timesing It. Have you ever heard of that book?
No, I haven't.
That's not the right title, but I read it recently and it's what you're talking about in a way. It's like this imposter syndrome, but it's like living in the gap is what they call it in the book. It's living in basically reviewing the failures all the time instead of having a reflective perspective about like, yeah, but look at all the wins last week or that kind of thing.
Yeah. So that's one of the things my clients will do with me too. I'll ask them like, when's the last time you actually failed? Like you failed at something that you would consider a pretty significant failure because they're so good at remembering all the mistakes that they made, but so good at forgetting all of the success that they've had. And so one of the techniques that I use all the time when I'm having a day and my inner critic's just loud is instead of writing out my to-do list, I write down the to-done list. So the list that I've done all day. Because afterwards, after a full day, you're like, why am I so drained? And then you start playing it out of like, oh, I called this person. I followed this up. I had 3 sessions. I did this. I did that. And you're like, yeah, there's my permission slip to just chill tonight and maybe read my book and do absolutely nothing for the rest of the evening.
That's awesome. Yes. Love that. What'd you call it? The done list?
To-done list.
To-done list. That's really good. I like that a lot. So let's talk about how you're offering this stuff. Are you doing this in your private practice? Are you doing this with coaching clients? How are you managing that? I think in this podcast, we talk a lot about the entrepreneurial side of being a therapist and maybe getting out of the one-to-one model or scaling to coaching, that kind of thing. And a big question that comes up is, what's the difference? So like you're doing deep trauma work, I guess, when you're therapy, but then the coaching side is something different. So I wonder if we could just talk about all of that. how much you're doing here, how much you're doing with the coaching, and then the difference of the two, really.
Yeah. Let me give you a little bit more on the backdrop of it. So
Yeah.
when I left the hospital system as a medical social worker, I did put up my shingle and started my private practice. I luckily wanted to be completely virtual, and then COVID happened, and I was just the cool kid on the block with having experience of doing that. And so I opened Higher Ground Wellness, which is the name of my private practice that's completely virtual, and group practice that I have another clinician that works with me. From there, after about a year of doing private practice, I kept meeting this very similar profile. We had done a lot of trauma work, had done even EMDR, had done all these different things that needed the accountability and needed the like one-to-one support, but mostly needed what was called shared vulnerability, needed to be heard and seen in a way that was beyond what therapy boundaries would allow for.
Nice.
And so I started pivoting a little bit, and that's when I opened up Nichole Coyne Coaching and Consulting. And so I do that as my other practice. And primarily, that's what I'm doing the majority of right now. I'm mostly doing coaching. I absolutely love it. I offer a couple different packages, but I also do consulting for therapists in their own practices. I also do just one-off intensive sessions if people need that. I kind of utilize it as a like by my brain. Let's spend an hour together breaking down certain things, because cognitive shifts can happen really quickly for high achievers, right? And there's no client I've ever met more than one that I'm like, I'll propose a question. They come back the next week. They're like, oh yeah, I quit the job and I started this new job after we had that conversation. And I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. Right?
That's amazing.
Because it happens so quickly, I like to be able to provide that type of service to people that are in that space. So they've done the therapy. They really know a lot about themselves. They're very good at highly intellectualizing and understanding where they're coming from. And they can pretty much tell everybody's personality or mood in a room. But now they're figuring out how to take care of themselves and leaning into that. And so that is what I offer with my one-to-one coaching, my VIP package. And I only take a couple slots per year because of the time that goes into it. But
wow, that's amazing.
I absolutely love doing it. Yeah.
It's very cool. Is that the intensive too? Do you do the intensive in there, or is that a different?
People can purchase intensive sessions just as needed, but you have to have a strategy call with me. So I at least know who you are, or at least know like what topics we talk about. The VIP is 1-to-1, 16 weeks support with Voxer access. So they pretty much get 24/7 access to me with biweekly Zoom calls.
That is so great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's really helpful.
Part of what I love about this podcast is being able to talk about the flexibility of who we are as therapists and all these different things that we can do. Building out packages like that you love. I mean, I could tell when you're talking about it, it just really lights you up. I love that.
I get to connect with people on such a deep level all over, like in a really positive space. And you see the most change from that, because for these individuals, it's not that they need just a session at 2 p.m. on Thursday every week. I'm really going through a rate this very second. And it would be so helpful for you to just be able to be there to listen and provide me some support on what's happening here. Because perfectionists are the people that need more permission. They are the people that need more grace and that need more awareness and like, no, this is actually your body saying like, it's time to rest. It's time to slow down. Or nope, let's go. Let's kick it up a little bit. Let's take better care of ourselves and figure that out. And that's a navigation system. We have to really learn the new navigation. And so I absolutely love the VIP packages. That's my favorite service.
That's really cool. You could tell when you talk about it. Yeah, that's neat. So another thing we love to talk about on this podcast is just the ever-evolving world of being a therapist or a coach and technology and how it's fitting in, technology, AI, how it's fitting in to help you run your businesses more smoothly, more effectively, more efficiently. Do you have anything that you're using right now that's game changer for you kind of thing?
I use berries and I absolutely love it. There's a part of me, I think I was having a conversation with a former colleague of mine that we used to work together and we reconnected after a few years. And I said, oh my gosh, if you had this, if we had this when we were doing like field work,
yes,
it would have just completely changed the game. So I use that for my sessions and absolutely love it. What's great too is that because I'm doing intensive sessions, having a transcript makes a huge difference. Because so many times clients will say, wait, what did you say? Like, can you repeat that back? I need to hear it again. And I'm like, I'll try.
It's like, I have no idea what I just said, but guess what? We have a transcript.
Yeah, I was literally moving on to the next point, but okay, let me do my best. So that's been incredibly helpful for me. I also am the recovering perfectionist type. So I have my own templates and I utilize my own templates for insurance purposes, for cash pay. I love that I can maneuver using my own templates in the program. That's made a huge huge change for me in terms of just being able to access and utilize it. And I do use ChatGPT and Gemini and a couple other features for building content. I've been building content for, I guess, 6-7 years now. So that has been really, really helpful as well. I think that there's a lot of fear surrounding some of the AI areas, and it's just about making sure that you're boundaried in the ways that you need to be, but also we got to stay up with it, right? Like we got to keep trying to use these things because they are powerhouses for the future and for getting our time and energy back. And that's my biggest belief system.
Same. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's like, where was this? I've been practicing. I added it up. It was like 30 years in the field. It's like, if only I had had this back then. I mean, I've just wasted so much time on writing treatment plans and progress notes.
Right. And a bunch of the therapists that I'll talk to, they'll be like, well, I'm behind, I'm here. And I'm like, honestly, we have to figure out a new system. And instead of you staying in that stuck procrastination point, let's utilize this to get you caught up so that it works for you, right?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to sit there and plug out one more measurable goal.
Yeah, that's so true. I hear that a lot. The objections really for using AI to help with our documentation and stuff. It's not going to sound like me. It's cheating, and especially for perfectionists. Okay, if I'm not writing it myself, it doesn't count. That kind of mindset. It's just like, gosh, if I could just force somebody to use it for a little bit, they'd see how much better their life could be. Quality of life when you don't have to like spend the evenings and the weekends or whatever doing notes or treatment plans, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I mean, they also probably say that about rest though, too, right?
Yeah, it's true. Good point. Yes. Yeah.
I haven't earned it yet. And it's like, excuse me, this is a basic human need for you to need a little bit more rest. So
how do you help people get past that? Like draw that boundary. Okay, I've worked like 10 hours today. I need to cut it off. Is there some strategy that you use to just cut that off for the perfectionist?
There's this one that I really like that I utilize with a lot of the individuals that are really not seeing where their time and energy goes to, which is just print out a blank week. A piece of paper, use whatever you like. If you want to do digitally. Write down everything you do for an entire week and really do an analysis on like your time and energy. Because if at the end of that, you are stacked every single day, seeing patients, doing all these different things, but you are completely drained. And on top of it, you don't have anything left for you, then something has to change. That system isn't going to work for a long period of time, or it is going to lead to burnout and it's going to exhaust you. And so playing that out to doing that to do to done list and really seeing like, this isn't even how I want to be living my life, that really starts to pivot that. And I think perfectionists tend to, or at least the ones I talk to, tend to say to me, if I slow down, I will never be able to rev back up. And I'm like, if you slow down, your rev up is going to look so different. It's like using a tool. When you can use a tool, like you said, like if I could just get them to try it a little bit.
Yeah.
If you use a tool and realize, wow, this is the best potato peeler I have ever used, even though it might slice off a layer of finger, like you're still going to go back to that potato peeler because the other one's just way too much work.
Exactly. Yes. I love that strategy, the time study strategy. It's amazing when you actually force yourself to look. In my case, anyway, I did a time study many, many years ago with a coach, and it was like, oh my God, I'm getting ready to do negative self-talk, but it's like, I am just wasting so much time. When you see it written out like that, I love that you said that. What a fantastic topic. And I bet people are just lining up to work with you because this is such a common thing for people, especially I feel like even with AI now, because you could like scale faster, you could do more in a lot of ways. So that perfectionism tendencies, at least for myself anyway, it's like, gosh, I could be doing like 10 times more if I wanted to now that I've got AI to help me, now that my notes are taken care of, what can I do with the rest of that time? That kind of thing.
Literally, since I started using berries, I've been making so many more new digital products. And one of my assistants is like, maybe you should do something else today. And I'm like, you're right. Like I have to keep it in check too. I was like, oh, but this would be such a cool digital product. And she's like, yeah, it would be. Go outside.
Yeah. Do we have the same business manager now?
Maybe.
Same thing to me. Yesterday, she's like, Kim, why don't we finish what we're already doing before you introduce a whole new product line into what you're doing? I'm like, yeah, you're right. Okay,
fine. That's good though. She's a good advocate for your mind and for your critics. So
she's looking out for me. She doesn't want me to burn out. Anyway, thank you so much for coming today. How do people find you? Where do they find you if they want to talk to you or see what you offer?
I am all over Instagram. I am all over TikTok. If anybody wants to follow my profile and go through some of my videos, have fun, go for it. My website is my initial, so it's ncoyne.com. And I'll make sure to share all my links. And you can book a free strategy call with me, even if you just want to talk for an hour for free and just kind of pick my brain or go through a couple things and make that decision. I have a couple spots opening up for this year, but yeah, I love working with people that are really aligned. And if I'm not your person, I will help you find your person. So that's my biggest thing too.
Love that. That's amazing. Thanks for being here today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.